My name's Bruce Penson. I'm the Managing Director of ProDrive. I'm being joined today by Andy Richardson from the South East Cyber Resilience Centre. Andy's also a police superintendent, as well as being a director of the South East Cyber Resilience Centre. And we're here today to talk to you about mobile phone security, and specifically why mobile phones are a cybersecurity risk and what you can do about it. So the webinar today, it should be about 20 to 25 minutes long, and there's an opportunity at the end to ask questions. If you do have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the chat, and then we'll go through those at the end of the webinar, and Andy and I will answer them as best as we can. So just to get things started, I just want to talk a little bit about why mobile phones are such a security risk. Andy's going to give you far more detail on this, but this is really just to get things going. So just to start with, mobile phones in the context of business are frequently used to store business data. So even if they're not your business phones, you're allowing people to use their personal phones to access email is the most common one, but other examples are apps for Teams, Slack, maybe your cloud files such as SharePoint or banking. All this stuff can end up having data on mobile phones. And as I said, sometimes these are business phones, sometimes they're personal phones. So that opens up then a whole other area of risk, because you've no idea what those personal phones are being used for. Essentially, you could say the same for business phones too. So examples might be social media, could be used on all sorts of public Wi-Fi, but they're still potentially being used for things, sensitive activities such as banking. So essentially, I think that the sum up is they are just another computer, but they're not necessarily protected and treated like one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Andy, and Andy's going to give you a far more detailed analysis of mobile phone security than I just have. And I'll sum up at the end, and then we'll hand over for some questions. So I'll just move on to your slides, Andy. So if you take it away from here, and I'll jump in when you're done.
Thanks, Bruce, and welcome to everyone who's on the webinar this afternoon now. As Bruce just mentioned, I'm Andy Richardson. I'm a police superintendent. So I head up the economic and cybercrime units for the South East Regional Organised Crime Unit, as well as Thames Valley Police. And my other role is Director of the South East Cyber Resilience Centre. And that's a police-led partnership with universities and businesses. And we're funded from the Home Office. So my salary and my colleague who works in the centre are all paid for. We're serving officers. He's an inspector in the South East region as well. And we're one of 9 networked centres across covering the whole England and Wales. And we're here to help businesses. We aim mainly for the micro, the small, the sole trader. However, we do help anyone with lots of free help and advice. And other services that we can provide. But we are here to help businesses. And that's it. As you join, we give you a free membership pack, doesn't cost anything. We give you a cyber health consultation, free monthly newsletter with lots of tips, tricks, resources, and we're pointing in the right direction of where you can get help. And also we have lots of other useful information on our website, cyber essentials videos, policy templates, and you can sign up for free. It doesn't cost anything, and you just get the welcome pack and a monthly newsletter, and that's about it. We're just trying to help businesses because the government and the Home Office recognise that small businesses are the ones that are hard to reach, the ones that don't know where to go and only come to the police if something goes wrong. So we're trying to be proactive, hence working in partnership with ProDrive to try and raise awareness of mobile phone security and trying to see if we can help. So mobile phone cybersecurity. So these are some of the stats. Fraud is the greatest crime, or the largest crime going along at the moment, and 80% of that is a digital element. So actually a lot is online. And then in the recent cybersecurity breaches survey, 32 businesses, so a third of businesses had a breach or a cyber attack in the last 12 months. That's scary. That's a lot of attacks for businesses. It only takes doing something inadvertently or having something go wrong, and an attacker can get into your systems, and we don't want that, and that's what we're here to try and help. So why mobile phones? Well, as Bruce said, it's your office nowadays. It's wherever you go, it's your life. Everything is on the mobile phone. It is just another computer, albeit smaller. They're not more secure than desktops or laptops. They still need securing, and they're easily lost or stolen. And your staff are targets for them and their contents. Your staff are also your biggest asset, because they can help prevent attacks, and they can see them coming, and they can help prevent them. But the criminals are after either the phone or what's on them or what they can access. So they want to get into your business. So what are the types of issues we're seeing? Shoulder surfing. That's where people are looking over your shoulder, hence the name, looking for passwords or sensitive data. And actually, there was only a BBC report on the BBC News website on Monday saying that a mobile phone in the Metropolitan Police area, so London, gets stolen every few minutes. It is a real big issue there. Someone comes up to you, looks over your phone, looks over your shoulder into your phone, sees that it's on, and they seal it. They've actually got your phone open and unlocked now. So that is an issue. Social engineering is another one. So you've got phishing, smishing, and vishing. And for those who don't know, phishing is where you're sent emails purporting to be someone else. It's like imposters. And they're trying to either get you to click on a link, which will take them to a dodgy website where you put in your passwords and information, or they're trying to click on the link which actually downloads malware to your phone or to your computer. Smishing is very similar but on text messages, and then vishing is voice calls. So it's people purporting to be someone else and phoning up. You get we see a lot of call center pretending to be Microsoft call centers phoning up to say they want to do extra patches on your phone or on your computer, and to give you access. You should never give anyone access over the phone to your stuff. Public Wi-Fi is an issue because it's unsecured. So if you use it, you must use a virtual private network, so a VPN. Otherwise, people can listen in on your data and on what's going on. Don't install unapproved apps. Always go to Google Store or Apple Store to get the approved versions. And then a big one is having insecure and often used passwords. There are password crackers out there. They do crack them very quickly. So please don't have the most popular one for the last few years, which is password. And I'll just come on to the next one. I'll come on to passwords more detail in a minute. But solutions. So train your staff to recognise suspicious emails, texts and calls. It doesn't cost a lot. In fact, it doesn't cost anything. Just talk about what there are. There's Google has free phishing email tests, or you can speak to companies or even ourselves about how to do that. Your staff are the biggest assets in your company for that. As I mentioned, always use a VPN on public Wi-Fi. Don't go unsecured on there. Strong separate password for business and personal use. Try not to have the same one. I really would not recommend having the same password for your business and personal use, because if one gets compromised, it will go across to the other and people can then get into the other accounts. Then only download approved apps. And update software and prompted. They're there for a reason. Android, so Google, and then iOS for Apple. Those updates are there for a reason. They're security updates. You may have heard of zero-day attacks. So it's when a criminal has exploited an error in the software and nobody knows about it. So until someone actually identifies it, it's a zero-day attack. And those patches are there to stop those. So please do download them. And then this is coming back to the jargon, so of what phishing is so spam phishing, emails to all. So it's just a general email, and the criminals hope someone clicks onto it or engages, so they've actually hooked someone. So that's why it's the phishing, because of the hook. Spear phishing is targeted emails. So people like to targeting finance people within a company to pretend they're the chief CEO or the head director, asking the lower ranked person in finance to do something. Social media phishing, that's again targeting phishing. Postal phishing, it still happens. People send out investment scams, trying to get people to sign up, and that's still phishing. And then SMSs, so text messages can be spoofed, and so can be calls. So there was it was in the news this week. A gentleman from London was sentenced to 13 years in prison for actually owning the company iSpoof, which sold spoofing software to criminals, and they made millions. They were able to do it on texts or on phone. The top one in the middle is basically that: disguise your ID. You can pretend to be a different telephone number. And then working round clockwise, your Apple ID is about to expire. That's a text message. It looks reasonable. People click on it, and you've asked to put in your Apple ID and password, and then the criminals have got your details. Next one is the government UK. We've seen lots of texts like that about energy bill support, cost of living crisis, and you click on it and you put your details in, and they've got you. Again, the HMRC is very similar. Complete the application. HSBC, so a bank, you realise you might even not bank with them, so you click on it to say, no, that wasn't me, and they've asked you to put your details in. And then the last two is Asda, and we've all had ones from either, but this one says Ewan, the driver Ewan is DPD. That one's particularly post offices. We've had DPD, we've had other smishing texts asking you to log on to something, put your credentials in, put some passwords in, or just your details, and they've got you. So they've got an access into you. And quite often people don't change their passwords. They've kept them for the same across business and private. And we've got so many different passwords that we need nowadays. People do keep them the same. That's why we recommend a password manager or save them to your browser. And then this is it. The best recommendation now is a passphrase and not a password. So just down the right hand side, they're the worst in 2002. And you can see they're pretty easy, and computers will crack those very quickly. So we recommend 3 random words, minimum of 12 characters, and then mix it up for complexity. So for the example, there is London Beach Music. You can put it into capitals, change a E to a 3 or an O to a 0. And then there's another one underneath with 3 red house monkeys with an exclamation mark. That's very complex. And then yes, and use a separate password for your email account, because if you're using it, for example, Facebook on your mobile phone, and your email, your business email, is the same, and somebody or even if it's different, somebody compromises it and gets hold of your email password, they go into your Facebook account, press the reset password, and that will go straight to your email account, and they've got control of it, so they can take over your accounts. But it is quite simple. Have the 3 random words, mix it up, and this is what it is in at the moment. How long it takes to crack a password. This was released very short time ago, and you can see you really want to be in the upper oranges or yellows, and this has changed over the last few years. There was one that was only took a year to crack 2 years ago. It took 51 years to crack 2 years ago. Now it takes less than a year. The computers have moved on so quickly and they're so much more powerful. So please have decent passwords. But there are solutions that we've gone through. So update your antivirus systems, use strong passwords, have your firewalls for your business, and restrict. The main ones are restricting admin access. So if you're running a business, don't do day-to-day business in your admin account, and also make sure any staff you have don't have admin rights unless they really need it. So there's lots of different things how to make yourself much safer online and much safer on your mobile phone. Takeaways, I would say, would be having a strong password, update your devices. It is simple stuff, and it will help you no end in preventing business crime. And we all like the one on the right hand side. We see it's called Capture, and it prevents the bots, so computers ganging up and having a botnet to try and crack into systems. So it just proves that you're a human element. So that one's guess the cut or traffic lights. You have guess the stairs, guess the bridges. Really useful if you have that on your business as well. Back to Bruce.
All right. Thank you very much, Andy. Very much appreciated. Some useful insights there. And just to sort of recap on that, then, some of the things that Andy mentioned, which I think are really, really important, is passwords, having good passwords and not reusing them. Is really crucial, and this applies to computers or phones or anything else, and obviously not using admin accounts. One of the approaches, I can't remember if it is in your list, Andy, that might be suitable if you don't have this already, is using password management software to record your passwords. As you can imagine, if you have a separate password for everything, which is what you should have, it becomes quite difficult to remember everything. So in fact, almost impossible. I know that I've got well over 200 passwords myself, personal passwords, to remember, and it's just never going to happen without recording them somewhere. So password manager, if you don't have that already, is a really vital or really useful piece of kit. Just specifically a couple of comments with regards to using mobile phones in businesses. So it's really important that you have some controls in place around the use of phones. There's a minimum. You should definitely have a policy explaining to your staff what they can and can't be doing on their phones, whether they're personal or business ones, really. If they're using those phones to get business information on them, so for business purposes, an email, as I said earlier, is a business case, then you should definitely have a policy in place to do that. You can technically enforce that as well, which putting technical policies in can be better, because it means that things are more within your control then. So certainly if you're running Microsoft 365, you can lock down business phones. So it only allows people to install software you want and do things you want with them. And obviously that's not so practical for personal phones, because no one's going to want you putting controls on their phones. But you can lock down business data in a secure app. Again, Microsoft 365 can do that. And most people have the license that covers it. So that's a really good practice if you're using or allowing your staff to use their personal phones to get business email. And I know a lot of businesses do, because it's convenient for them, and their staff don't want to carry two phones around as well. So really important controls to put in place. Right, so we've got a few questions. So the first one is, how do you go on VPN on public Wi-Fi? So Andy, do you want to talk a little bit more about VPNs?
Yes, they do make you secure on public Wi-Fi, because with public you can actually eavesdrop, as they say, and listen in to the data being transferred across. So it's especially worrying if you're putting in passwords and going on banking apps, if you're just using that. There are free VPNs available. I'm not too sure how much. I'm sure they're fine. However, I think a paid for service is probably better to buy one. They're just trying to think. If you've got something like a Norton or antivirus, they provide VPNs as well, or there's ones like Express VPN, or just don't go onto public Wi-Fi and use your mobile data. It's probably the easiest one because that will be secure.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Yeah, that's certainly what we tend to do in our business is we use mobile data wherever possible. There's lots of VPN packages out there. I think ProDrive will be able to provide one for people who are interested, but essentially it's an app you install on your PC or your phone, and it funnels all the data through that. So there is a cost to it. They're usually about somewhere between £5 and £10 a month, I believe. So we've got another question here. How best can you tackle an employee who suspects very lax security on their mobile phone? So who they suspect is very lax with security. So if you've got a member of staff who you don't think is sticking with your policies on the mobiles. So it's a good question. Andy, do you have any thoughts on that? I'll sum up something from my side afterwards.
It's a difficult one. It's whether you test them or it's something for maybe having the strong policy in place. You do need a policy, and then it's going through your human resources, HR department. I think about that because having security is a big issue, and it's very important with mobile phones. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, just at the end of this of Andy's part, that you can put technical controls in place, and as I said, most businesses have a Microsoft 365 license that allows them to do that. If it's a personal phone and you're not putting strict controls on the phone, you're just controlling your business apps, if you like, then it's a different matter because someone obviously is still at liberty to do what they like. You can audit that from time to time. But it's a combination of taking a technical approach, which, you have to decide as a business how far you want to go with that. If you want a really, really good sound technical approach, then you'll need to provide phones, which obviously come with a cost to them. And so it's a combination of that technical approach and having policies and procedures in place, auditing and good education of staff and why they should be doing it. So there's not a black and white answer to that question, I'm afraid. We have another one here for how do you protect banking apps? So Andy, do you have any thoughts to share on
banking apps are generally very secure. It's if you're using them on a public Wi-Fi, then I wouldn't recommend that. So use your data, but they've got a lot of built-in controls, and they're using two-step verification, so the passwords, and then either Face ID or they're sending you a authenticator app or something like that. So two-step verification on those. But banks are making it very secure now because they're quite often liable for returning the funds if they get stolen.
Yeah, and I think obviously having secure passwords as well. So don't use the same password for your bank that you use for anything else. It goes without saying, really. And I think there's one other thing about banking apps, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Andy. But obviously, if you're using a Windows computer and you're accessing the bank on that, there's a risk that your computer might have some malware in, and someone can see what's going on the screen, perhaps. Where generally the perception is on mobiles and tablets, and particularly I think on Apple ones, that there's less likely that that's going to happen, and therefore you're more secure using a banking app on there. And often you've got the biometric stuff, face and fingerprint ID as well to verify you. Do you have a view on that?
Certainly, historically, Apple has been more secure than other like Android devices. that is changing. They are still being attacked. Yeah, phones are probably more secure than desktops or laptops than to use banking apps on that, because of it is easier to get software downloaded inadvertently or maliciously onto a laptop and desktop.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And the other thing really just to be aware of with banking as well is whether you're using an app on a phone or you're accessing that via your PC, is to make sure that on your business banking that you have good authorization procedures in place, so that, you know, if someone does go and create a transaction, asked to transfer a load of money out, and they perhaps haven't reviewed the information they've been given, or perhaps have been tricked into asking for that, is then it requires someone else to review it, and a fresh pair of eyes, if you like, might spot that. So that's not necessarily going to be something that will protect you from something that's happened to your phone, but any use of banking apps, people can be tricked into making transactions that they shouldn't be making, and that's you know, quite a significant problem.
And sorry, just on that, and the latest stats and what we're seeing is what's called business email compromise is a big problem for businesses at the moment, which is where criminals intercept invoices and then change the bank details. So if you ever get an invoice from a company that you're expecting to pay, so they're quite legitimate, but you notice that they've said, oh, please note our new bank details, always verify that with a telephone call to them from a number not on that piece of paper, not on that invoice, but from a number that you've used before. Because criminals are clever, unfortunately, but they are. That's how they get rich on that. So that's why we've got to be one step ahead of them. Verify that the banking details have changed, and from someone that you actually know who works for that company. But that is big business at the moment. Business email compromise. Yeah,
really good point, Andy. Right, we've got one final question, so we'll answer this one, and then we should probably wrap up then. So the question is, what are the pros and cons of saving passwords to your browser? So Andy, do you have any thoughts on that? I know I certainly do.
Well, the National Cyber Security Centre, who are our technical advisors for the government and for policing, do recommend it. Some people don't like it, some people do. If your computer's secure and you can save it to there, then I don't see a problem. I personally use a password manager to save all mine, so I know exactly what they are and I can log into them via that. Bruce?
Yeah, so what I'd say is it's probably better than storing it in an Excel document called password. I'd be surprised how many people still do that. There have been some attacks recently where passwords have been exfiltrated from web browsers, and I believe that's on the increase. I think it possibly depends on the web browser and the security of your computer as well. But I would always recommend using a password manager instead of a web browser, because, you know, once there's been a few successful attacks that have been made public, then in my view, criminals out there will be looking to target that, and that might be one of the next big things.
Definitely.
Right, I think we'd better wrap up now. It's 1 o'clock, so thank you very much everyone for attending. If you have any questions, the slides will be going around, so feel free to get in touch with Andy or I afterwards, or obviously please just sort of contact ProDrive if you're an existing client and you have any questions over these things as well. So with that, we'll wrap up for today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks for your time today, and have a good afternoon.